we ready? Are we ready? I'll call the meeting to order. Are there any citizens' concerns?
Yes, Tara Fredericks. My first one's a question. I got a couple more, but the first question is, are you going to entertain public comment from the public at the sewer warrant discussion? If you aren't, then it's important for people to know that now so that they can stand up now and give their comments relative to the sewer warrant discussion.
We'll entertain.
Okay, thank you. Then I feel the need to correct something that I said a long time ago before we understood what the sewer betterments and how they're going to be calculated, and I had said that my neighbor may have to pay 2 betterments because she's got a side lot, and that was corrected, and there's been somebody that's standing up and saying that I was lying, and I wasn't lying. I was saying that she should check that because I wasn't sure. And relative to the number of units that somebody can put on their house, under 40B, we just approved at 446 Mass Ave, 31 units on 0.9 acres. So even if somebody has 3.5 acres left, you know, in their parcel, they sold off the rest of the town for however many millions, they still have the room for all these units. So I want to be clear about that. Then on the sewer page on the town hall's website, and this isn't to do with the warrant, so I was just going to ask you to make a correction, because on that page it states, it's like, see here for all the businesses that are in support of the sewers. Then you go to the page and it has Acton employee, Acton contractor, it has Barry Rosen writing in to tell him he can't make it to the meeting. Then the mall, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the mall renters, the people that are renting from the mall people. There's only 2 in support, and they're not even in businesses that aren't. So in other words, there's like, it seems to be not appropriate to list these as businesses in support and show the link. You should have to make a different page of businesses in support, and I hope you do that, and then label them malls, you know, renter of his, so that you can see that all the support is coming from one place. Then my, in the December 3 warrant discussion, can I talk about the non-binding thing there?
Yes.
Yes, okay, and then, good, and that's it. Thanks so much.
Hello, Leo Fochman, 18 Wright Terrace. For anybody that's seen any of these plans, I'm on the top of the hill. During the West Acton committee meeting on Thursday, I brought up a few issues of misinformation. One in particular, I was at the train station and somebody found out who I was, and they said, oh, I heard if sewers come, you're going to build out your property. You're just waiting. And I'm like, no. So for the selectmen here, if anyone wants to see it, I have my information right here. When I brought that issue up, let's think of the right way of saying this. Well, she mentioned it herself, Tara. I said, we have restrictions on a property that we can't build. She came right back up, didn't even really look at us, looked at them and said, by the way, yes, he has restrictions, but he has 5.5 acres that he can build on. I have the property card. I have 3.7 acres. I have the plot plan that shows I cannot build from the west of my house, the rest of the property, and then a certain south portion, which I show here, I cannot build. This has all been in place. So to say to somebody, I am going to build housing, that was bad enough, but yesterday I was working in my yard and another neighbor came by and he said, I was just talking to so-and-so, and she was really worried about the traffic on Mead Terrace because if the sewers come in, the guy up on the hill, me, already has plans to build high-density 40B housing. And she was really worried. But since she was told I'm a neighbor, he says, no, Kathy and Leo. And by the way, my wife is Kathy Fochman, retired recreation director, garden club, you name it, she volunteers. All right, we're not going to be out there trying to make a profit off of something. We can't build. And he told her that, number one, we wouldn't do it, and number two, he thinks there's restrictions on our property. I have them all right here. So, misinformation. I'm wondering, with the first person that told me he overheard it, when Tara, who mentioned, she got all the signatures. When she was getting signatures, did she use any misinformation at that point? You know, are those signatures valid? Is there a way to check with these people of what they were told? Because I think it would invalidate the whole thing. Also, I haven't seen it, I looked, for knowingly passing out misinformation. Is there anything you can do? You know? Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what she said. Just to clarify, at the time that I said that I thought Leo had plans, it was during the negotiations for the buying of the Wright Hill, where we paid him, what was it, how many millions? And there were actual drawings of a build-out. I had asked to put a sign on the lot with me. Priscilla was very in favor of what I was doing, and then he said they would want to reserve the right to develop. So, that kind of thing. I didn't say that they had plans then when I was talking to people during the petition or walking around Mead Terrace. I said that they could, because under 40B it bypasses local zoning, and I believe he still has 3.7 acres, whatever it is. But relative to the signatures, we got 280-something signatures, and any person that felt like they were misled is welcome to come down and say something. I was very clear that we were using a special town meeting process to get a build-out analysis relative to the number of units that could be built, and I was using the 1994 analysis that the town says is still valid, and I said that may actually be low, because if they were using some of that to build septic system, or if they're bypassing local zoning. Again, I point to 31 units on 0.9 acres that got approved. Thank you.
Are there any other citizens' concerns? I'd like to thank James McCrae, our Veterans Agent, and Gail Sawyer for our Veterans Day celebration. And the Council on Aging will be having a fair this Saturday from 9 to 2 at the Council on Aging.
Last Saturday.
Oh, thank
we had, I think there was 400 to 500 people that were at the senior center yesterday, or Saturday. So just,
Oh, great.
Yeah, it was a great turnout. Sorry about that, my note wasn't very clear.
Do you have anything?
Yes, thank you. I just want to remind everyone that the plastic checkout bag ban that town meeting approved last year goes into effect in a few weeks. January 1st is the start date for that, so be prepared to use something besides plastic bags at the grocery store. I wanted to congratulate Roland Bartle. He just was recognized through the American Planning Association as a 2019 Professional Planner Award for his service and his accomplishments, so congratulations. Also, Detective Mark Symington earned the Traffic Safety Hero of the Year Award from AAA Northeast, so great job, Detective Symington. Today was the deadline for Community Preservation Committee applications, so I just wanted to quickly brief the board on the applications that we submitted through the organization. There was an application for the River Street project. The Open Space Committee submitted an application. There was an application for repointing of the historic portions of the Memorial Library. There was an application for refurbishing the Isaac Davis Monument across the street. There was an application for Gardner Field to start work towards Gardner Field. As you saw a presentation last week, there was an application related to the Narrow Sports Pavilion, Phase 2. There was an application for regional housing services, and there was an application for CPA program administrative support, which is an annual request. So that the applications were due today, and the CPC will start their process in the coming weeks. So just wanted to mention that, and we're scheduled to come back on December 2nd for the board to consider some of those applications. I just wanted to mention that with all the information out there about town meeting, the special town meeting coming up, we actually recorded a video, thanks to Acton TV, and the goal of the video was to explain everything that was happening in 7 minutes. And we had to summarize a lot of things, but I think we almost got there. So we'll send out the link afterwards, but Acton TV did a great job producing it. Lori Cooney helped out, so we appreciate that. And we have 3 Tuesdays in December to be prepared for. And finally, on that note, any information that we're compiling on special town meeting will be at actonma.gov/townmeeting.
Thank you, John. Okay. Recommendations on the articles on the December 10th special town meeting warrant and the December 3rd special town meeting warrant. So, do
you want to take the 3rd first?
Sure. There's only one article, and that's a citizen's petition, which is a non-binding resolution. Per Massachusetts general law, we formally request a special town meeting to be held for Acton town meeting members to affirm whether they want the town to prepare comprehensive build-out and traffic analysis which detail existing conditions, likely and worst-case scenarios under build-out with sewers and without sewers before the town holds any vote to expand sewers to West Acton. Such analysis should consider the possibility of 100% residential development under zoning and maximum density under Chapter 40B. Comments?
No, I was just going to mention, I think we need to just vote on whether we're going to recommend this or not recommend it. I don't really have any comment.
Okay. No comments?
We did receive an email from Ms. Fredericks, I think it was late this afternoon, questioning why it's listed as a non-binding resolution. And my understanding of why it's non-binding is the article is incomplete. It didn't ask for an authorization or an appropriation or take action incident thereto to provide the monies to do the studies. And is that the manager's understanding as well?
Yes.
So let me, I would not recommend this article. I don't want to get into a large, a big procedural kerfuffle on town meeting floor over it. Maybe Peter would have the answer to this. Has it been our practice when citizens' petitions come in the past that town council will review them, speak with the petitioner, and they would make any necessary adjustments to the petition so the petition would be complete on form and substance?
Yeah, that's my understanding. I assume didn't that happen here?
We received the article, and we're required to present the article exactly as it was submitted. It did not include a title as submitted, so rather than leave it blank, we added a title. We also offered the petitioner the opportunity to provide a summary, which was included before you. We did ask town council for whether or not it was non-binding as we were preparing the title, and it was council's opinion that it is a non-binding resolution,
And
which is why it was.
They were comfortable with the language of the citizens' petition being something that is appropriate to present at town meeting, I assume.
No, we didn't. Council doesn't have a choice on that matter. we have to bring it forward. I think.
Yeah, okay. I mean, there would be certain things, I assume, that, needed to be tweaked in language or whatnot. But, I mean, the important point is that town council looked at it, and apparently their opinion is it is a non-binding article.
But I understood it's non-binding because it lacked the request for an appropriation to pay for the study. Is that correct?
That's part of this consideration. It's non-binding because it's not a request for authorization to specifically appropriate money or borrow money
Or any action incident thereto, that magic language.
Right, and I think that it's the way it's written. It's asking to bind another town meeting, and I think that's why we made it clear that it's non-binding.
Well, if you added, I suppose somebody from the floor could amend the article and ask that that language be added. I just want to avoid that circumstance. Could there be an appropriation, assuming that language was added, the necessary appropriation language, and it was included in the article passed, would the article then be implemented and we would go forward with the studies and have the money to pay for those studies?
Yeah, I can look into the mechanics of how that would go, but we haven't really discussed that at this point.
Well, no, would that in fact be the case if the article was written correctly with the added appropriation language and it passed, would we then just go forward in this fiscal year with the studies? Would the monies be appropriated out of some fund, or we have to wait till next year to get the monies?
Yeah, if it was written in the form that's seeking that, then yes, but we hadn't really reviewed it under that condition because that's not how it was written. So if you're asking me where we would get the money, I haven't even thought about it yet because we don't know how much it is, or
We can't change the language of the article. We can't change the language of the article even at town meeting, because that's what the language the petitioners gave us.
Well, I guess the petitioner can.
No, it's 280 petitioners.
You can propose on the floor.
Is she recognized?
No.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
So, I mean, the language is what it is, right? So, yeah, I don't think that we can't change the language.
But
I think what I would see in this, even if somebody wanted to change the wording on town meeting floor, I think then council would have to decide whether or not it's within the scope of the article. And I think since there's nothing in here that talks about appropriating any money for this study, adding that kind of wording afterwards, I think would be outside the scope of the article and the petition. So I agree with Mr. Martin.
But is it the practice of the board when citizen petitions come in that are not quite complete in form and substance, that town council has in the past worked with the petitioner to make those corrections and...
Yes, before the fact, not after the fact. So the town council has worked with people, for example, where they're adding an article to the annual town meeting, where they just need a small number of signatures, 10, I think, to help them with the wording of their article. But then they get their 10 signatures. But this one the wording is done. Right.
Does it
We
matter?
can't change the wording.
The only way the article would get to the manager or the clerk would be if there were the requisite number of signatures, be it 10 or 250. So it would be the same circumstance.
No, so some people can ask for help from town council ahead of time and get assistance in their wording of their petition.
Well, Peter, what has been the history of it? Do they look for help before it's actually submitted, or would it be after it's submitted and certified? Do you know?
Gee, I'm trying to recollect prior citizens petitions. I do think that there were some that where the citizens who were thinking about filing a special article came forward and spoke to the town manager and showed their language, and town council weighed in on it before they got the signatures and submitted it. I do think that has happened in the past.
Okay, but the circumstance now is the article has been certified, submitted, certified, and that avenue would be out of bounds. Would that be your sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think town council looked at this. I mean, there could be something that would be ruled out of order or something, but apparently the town council thought that this was appropriately worded, is my understanding.
John?
She would have said something if there was a problem with it. I mean, she has said that it's a non-binding resolution, is my understanding.
Yeah, my understanding was it was non-binding because it didn't have the language that asked for the money to pay for the...
That was one of the reasons. One of the other reasons is, in the same way we can't do it, a town meeting cannot bind the hands of a future town meeting. So that this thing cannot say that a future town meeting cannot vote on sewers, right?
I think
in the subsequent town meeting, they can just say that they are going to vote on sewers.
Well,
Right?
I think what it said here is that we take no action until these two studies are complete. Is that? I think that.
But any subsequent town meeting can reverse itself. That's why, and one of the reasons why it's not. There are a number of factors, I believe.
Okay.
John, did you have something?
I just wanted to clarify that council was provided this petition that was submitted, and the petition included only the language that's shown right here, where it starts with per. The rest of the language, the title was added by staff just to make sure that people understand what they're being asked to look at. And the summary was not included with the petition. It was added after the fact. And it wasn't reviewed by council because it just hasn't been reviewed by council. It's not, there are things in here that are coming, this comes directly from petitioner. We didn't add anything or modify this in any way. It's been the practice of the town to, in some cases, the citizen petition includes a summary with it. So we would just take it, put it in the warrant, article, summary. And in this case, as before you, there's a draft summary provided by the petitioner, but it's not a requirement that it be included, but it's traditionally, I think, something we've done.
Peter?
No, I was just going to say, it is my recollection that whenever we have non-binding resolutions at town meeting, that's spelled out in the warrant. That's called out that this is a non-binding resolution.
Yes,
Oh,
Tara?
okay. So as a layperson, I was kind of expecting town council to contact me and say, is this considered to be non-binding or whatever it is? So I was presuming it would be binding because per the state law, it says you get signatures and you get the question put toward town meeting. But I understand your opinion is that it's non-binding, and so I would have no opposition to you staying in the warrant that it is our opinion that it's non-binding, and then I can do whatever I'm going to do after that. But I was originally thinking that town staff would just prepare a memo updating the 1994 analysis with an estimate of what it would be if it was 100% residential. And I mean, we have planning staff that supposedly has these skills, so I was thinking that it would cost less to just do the analysis or do some form of analysis that would be credible, and forget the special town meeting. And so the fact that we're going towards a special town meeting was completely surprising to me. But I will note that there are things in the charter, for example, that don't have appropriations, that just say, you shall do this before you do that. You shall have reports every annual, And so I feel like this doesn't have to be as complicated as we're making it. But I am happy to propose an amendment to town meeting floor for the appropriation to do the analysis. I certainly would be open to that, because it's my understanding that even in a petition situation, that as long as it's within keeping of the original language, that you can amend from the floor. I think it's an excellent suggestion, and I don't know if you'd like any more other comments or answer any questions.
No, thank you.
Oh yes, one, relative to the tradition, it's, I think it's different, with a tradition of the way things have been done relative to what the law states. And the law states you'll bring forward a question to town meeting. It doesn't say you'll take the petition and change it to a non-binding. If the petitioner doesn't have the legal experience to do all this and hasn't come forward to get some legal help. It doesn't say all that. So we may disagree, but I think that it would be fair if you put your opinion in the warrant, and then we'll see how the cards fall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? John?
So it is the Board of Selectmen's warrant. Is there a place where you'd like to put your opinion in the warrant as a board?
Dean? Recommend or not recommend? Dean?
I would move that the board not recommend this. And my justification for that is that I don't think there's anything here that we will be discussing on December 3rd, which could not have been raised at the regularly called special town meeting on December 10th, other than obviously a political move to try to select an audience to show up for an additional special town meeting and cost the taxpayers about $10,000 more. So I will recommend that I would move the Selectmen not recommend this article.
Second.
Yeah,
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
No, I would just say I'm assuming that we're approving the article as written in this draft warrant here, including the non-binding resolution language.
That was my intent, yes.
Okay.
So the motion is to approve as printed before us, but to not recommend.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
John?
So that's with regard to the warrant. With regard to the summary, is there any further actions or edits you want to make to the summary?
John? David?
I think the petitioner should be able to say what she wants in the summary as long as it's deemed to be factually accurate. I haven't really studied this, and I know that there were further edits that came in this afternoon, and I didn't have time to read those. Anyway, that's mine.
Peter?
I mean, I'm okay with that. David is assigned to the sewer committee. We will get an opportunity to explain through David at town meeting why we voted to not recommend this article. So I assume this has got to be getting to the printer before our next meeting, right? So, okay. So we don't have time to write something, but David can express at the town meeting our opposition to this.
Just one more comment.
Okay.
Tara?
Just quickly, I just want to say that if I thought that if the government was doing a balanced presentation of sewers, I would have brought this forth for the December 10th. But I felt like what was going on is we need to get it before so that we had the time to have the discussion before. And so I thank you for being as fair as you can. Oh, also, I asked for 7 minutes to be equal to my 7 minutes because generally it's 14 minutes for the proposer and 7 minutes for the opposition. And if David's opposing the petition article, I felt like it was only fair and democratic to have equal time. Thank you.
John? Are you? Oh, all right. So the special town meeting on December 10th. Are we through with that? On the summary? Yeah, we voted on that. We don't need to vote on the summary, do we? No. Oh. Okay. Town meeting warrant. Kid-friendly movie night. What are they playing?
Yeah, you have to wait and see. It's a surprise.
Ah, Okay,
So this warrant includes the 3 articles, and it includes a lot of information that we include on the annual warrant. One item that we wanted to check in with the board on is, starting on page 6, there's a message, and this is the Board of Selectmen's opportunity to tell the community what's being discussed, and anything else that you may want to include. So we don't need to finalize this tonight, but we do need to finalize it before your next meeting this week. So that is one item, and then also the articles are still in draft form, but the numbers are where they will be, and any of the changes will be just language cleanup, and any suggestions you have will be appreciated.
okay, does anybody, yeah, Peter?
Is the language attendance is anticipated to be higher than average? Was that your judgment for this particular meeting, or I don't think we repeat that in every...
I think we put that in there
Okay.
for your consideration.
Okay. I think it's probably accurate, I mean, given the numbers that are on the table. So, and although it's always surprising how many people don't tune into this stuff, but...
Anyone else?
With respect to the message?
Yeah,
Yeah, given that the 3 articles have very good summaries, I would just leave the message as it is. I don't think we have to add
yeah.
what the town meeting will be voting on and the like.
Dean, yours?
Yeah, no comments.
Dean? Okay, so we'll go with that.
Great. Please.
No, Tara, we're discussing the warrant articles. We've discussed your article.
No, this is relative to the regular sewer article.
We're not there.
Oh, all right, thanks.
Regional school article?
Well, I would just say that I'm very much in favor of this article. I've gone to all the building, I mean, I know Peter's the liaison to the building committee, but I've also gone to all the building committee meetings since I've been a member of the board, so all of them for the last 6+ months. I think the building committee has done an excellent job in the building proposal. I believe it's a good value. I believe it's sorely needed. All my kids are adults, and half of them went to Douglas, and Douglas was an old building then. So it's a very old building now, and it really needs to be replaced. So anyway, I'm very much in favor.
John?
Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of the twin school and would vote to recommend the article. There's just been some misinformation out there as to exactly what town meeting is authorizing. And there are kind of 2 irrelevant terms. There's borrowing for the project, and there's the term allocable share. And the entity that's doing the borrowing seeking the borrowing on the project is the Acton Boxborough Regional School District. And what they're asking the town to do on December 10th is to approve $116,000+ in borrowing that's been authorized by the school district.
May I just make a correction? It's to approve the $116 million project, not $116 million borrowing.
No, it's
No, because the borrowing is minus the MSBA. It's to approve the $116 million project.
It says right here to see if the town will approve the $116 million borrowing authorized by the Acton Boxborough Regional School District. it's not, the point I'm trying to make is the entity that's doing the borrowing is the regional school district. We're asked to approve that borrowing, and that is subject to and contingent upon the December 17 ballot question, which would exempt from 2.5 the allocable share, which is about 85% that we are assigned. In Boxford, they're voting on the 15% that they're assigned to cover the required amounts to pay principal and interest on the regional school district's authorization. So it's not, we're not approving any borrowing on the part of the town. I think that's a key thing that people were missing. And I just wanted to be clear on that. And then we're voting on the 17th to exempt from 2.5 the allocable share and keep it outside of 2.5 so it's not within our operating budget.
Yeah, I think if I could speak, MSBA basically drafted this motion. They required us to put the entire $116 million borrowing costs in there. But if you get to the second to the last paragraph in this, there never would be a total of $116 million actually borrowed, because MSBA would reimburse approximately $38 million, or grant us approximately $38 million. So, so the Acton share of actual money that would be borrowed would be $66.3 million. That's 85% of 116 minus 38. So
Yeah, that's our allocable share of,
Right.
of the project, and that's what we're trying to exempt from 2.5
Right.
on December 17th. But we have to approve the regional district's borrowing.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to approve the article?
I move that we recommend Article 1.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I assume that I will be
Assigned?
assigned to express the selectmen's, assuming we vote to recommend this. And I agree with David that the process has been very fair and inclusive, and the building committee has worked hard to contain its costs, and that this facility will provide educational opportunities to students that don't exist now. So I'm in favor of recommending this article.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I did not vote, and I will abstain.
Oh, okay. Okay, Article 2, North Acton Fire Station, Design and Construction. And Dean, this will be your article?
That's correct. The, I think we've certainly heard a great deal about the need for the fire station, and I think we've done a good job with coming up with a good design and some well-vetted costs, and hope to continue to educate the public on this, and I would certainly move that we recommend this article.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Yeah, it's in the fire station article where the town is the borrower and we're going out and floating bonds and notes to raise the money to pay for it. And then if it's approved on December 10th, it's contingent upon the passage on December 17th of the 2.5 debt exclusion override to take the borrowing outside to raise the additional taxes that to exempt them from 2.5.
Okay.
It's a distinction from the other one.
Motion made and seconded to approve this article. In favor? Yeah,
Aye.
Aye.
that was unanimous. Okay, Article 3, Sewer District Expansion, West Acton. David?
Well, I presented the project at the tri-board meeting. I think it's a good project and needed for a variety of reasons. You know, it's needed to maintain the business vitality in West Acton. It's needed to for environmental reasons in town, and also I believe it's a good value for the resident homeowners in the district as well.
Okay. Could you identify yourself?
Hello, my name is Nancy Waters and I live at 622 Massachusetts Avenue. I'd like to speak to the sewer warrant. I have a few points to make. I'm going to try and make them really quickly. I hope you'll indulge me. I'm going to be providing some information that is available in public sources. I don't have the URLs or citations with me, but I can provide them for you if you want them. This is a terrible plan. It is unnecessary, it is unfair, and it is unkind. And those are three of the ways we judge in this society whether something is good or bad. The betterments proposed for just 200 residential property owners are exorbitant. $35,000 to $39,000 is exorbitant. That's before interest. That translates to a new car. I'm told I've never been able to afford a new car. Translates to 1.3 years at University of Massachusetts in-state tuition. It's well more than the average Harvard student actually pays for a year at Harvard. It's twice what I was planning to pay to fix my crumbling kitchen and twice what it would cost me to fix my roof so that we could accommodate solar panels, which would have an actual, indisputable environmental benefit. Everyone I've told that number to has been shocked. The universal response has been, that is outrageous, that is ridiculous, how can they make you pay that? South Acton was charged $12,300 for a residential single family for their betterment in 2002. Adjusted for inflation, $12,300 from 2002 was $17,455 in 2018 and is projected to be $17,595 in 2019. The town is proposing to assess the people of West Acton, the small amount of us that are in the actual district, twice as much as South Acton. Why? How is that fair? This is not a real betterment because we will never get that back when we sell our houses. And if we were to get it back, how would we get back more than twice as much as South Acton? I specifically asked the Board of Selectmen and the Sewer Advisory Committee at last year's town meeting to justify the costs by showing that homes with sewer appreciated more than those without crickets. One of the folks who spoke at the forum that we had last week asserted that when he was looking to buy in Acton, he specifically avoided houses in South Acton that had betterment liens because he didn't want to take on that extra cost every month. You translate that $158, $60 a month, every month, to young families who are moving into town. That's a car payment, that's a student loan payment, that's 3 days in home daycare. Okay, now, I apologize, I apparently printed on 2 pages, on the back pages. All right. I've investigated betterment rates in other Massachusetts communities since 2000 and found nothing remotely comparable to what we would be charged for. For towns that did it with the sewer betterment, and there are other ways, that Acton proposes, assessed fees ranged as follows. Tingsboro 2014, $12,000. West Boylston, $3,800, 2011. Chelmsford, $6,000, 2011. Newburyport and Plum Island, $10,400, 2007. One particular neighborhood in Lancaster, the South George Hill Road neighborhood, was charged $19,000 in 2007. That is $24,230 in 2019 dollars, by the way. Attleboro charged $4,000 to $5,000 back in 2000, and they had a huge abatement battle that followed that. There are alternatives to charging betterments. In 2016, Nantucket proposed to charge betterments ranging from $11,000 to $20,000, but town meeting chose to fund it via property tax increase on an amendment. At town meeting, there was no betterment charged. Marlborough is now in the midst of sewering the Sudbury Road neighborhood with no betterment charges paid for via property tax following a city council vote. The Chatham Board of Selectmen voted in 2010 that the massive and still ongoing wastewater project there would be funded on the tax rate, not by betterment. Orleans is assessing its betterments based on water usage, which required permission from the Mass Legislature, but if they got it, you could get it too, which did reduce residential betterment charges from around $9,000 to around $6,000, still a significant fraction of what you are proposing to charge myself and my neighbors. Finally, for its new Littleton Commons Smart Sewer project, Littleton will assess a betterment on an opt-in, opt-out basis. There is no mandate, and residents have up to 10 years to decide whether to join the system or not. If Littleton can do that, we could do it too. Note that all these projects are newer. The clear trend is toward alternative funding and away from SBU assessments. The town claims that we are locked into the SBU system. That is not true. It would be possible to use alternative funding going forward. We can change the bylaws. Fairness for South Acton, I understand you're concerned about that. It is not fair to charge them and not us. How fair is it to charge us more than twice as much as them? Also, it is possible to retroactively rebate some or all of the already paid assessments in South Acton. Charlton rebated betterments charged to residents for town drinking water in 2018. And all this is on the web, you can find it all. The argument that we have to do it the way we have done it before just because that is the way we have done it before is literally the worst public policy argument in the world. It has been used to justify waste, inefficiency, and injustice throughout history. This project is not environmentally necessary or even obviously beneficial. Septic technology is improving. West Acton has no pollution problem. The town has reversed, the Sewer Advisory Committee has reversed all its claims in that regard. There are easier, cheaper, and fairer methods to reduce nitrogen that the town has not tried, a lawn fertilizer ban for one. Municipal wastewater treatment plants are energy hogs. We have not yet requested from the Sewer Advisory Committee that they provide the energy use statistics for the wastewater treatment plant, but we will. They have a bigger carbon footprint than most conventional septic systems. Sewage systems don't replenish the groundwater. The town claims that this will enhance the vitality of West Acton by supporting commercial activity, but it seems plenty vital to me. I live there, I'm down there every day. I am one of their best customers. The lack of a sewer did not stop the new ice cream shop or the new bookstore. The lack of silverware instead of plastic cutlery does not seem to be hurting Twin Seafood. And where in the name of heck are they even going to put a dishwasher? Have you seen the size of their kitchen? Dave Hebert at Legend Cafe told me on Saturday that there is nothing he would want to do with his business that he cannot do now with his large and perfectly adequate septic system. If the existing businesses are already thriving, then what about new business? Where? Where would a new business go? The only empty storefront on Mass Ave is where the corner gallery used to be. That is a far better vacancy rate than many local retail districts. How does it help these businesses to take money out of the pockets of their best customers? Who are the people who actually live in the neighborhood? It certainly won't increase my goodwill toward these local businesses if I am forced to pay an extra $40,000 before interest to help them thrive. That's a lot of very expensive pints of beer, haircuts, fish sandwiches, cappuccinos, and children's books. This will hurt renters, period. Both residential and commercial landlords will pass the costs on to tenants. Residential tenants will see no increase in their assets because they don't own the property and never benefit when real estate values go up or meaningful change in their quality of life. There is no positive impact for them. Contrary to supporting affordable housing, this actually threatens it. The Littleton Common Smart Sewer Project is a pilot project that received a special state grant. From their website, what is a smart sewer? The project will include constructing a community water and energy resource center which will treat waste to produce a high-quality effluent for return to the environment. A system of small-diameter, low-pressure sewers will serve the project area and deliver flows to the Quirk. Designed with grant funding from the Charles River Watershed Associations, the CWRC is planned to include resource recovery facilities, including an anaerobic digester, and will produce energy and reuse quality water from the waste treated. It will have a better carbon footprint, possibly even a negative carbon footprint, and it will replenish groundwater. Why not investigate what Littleton is doing? Could we do it here? Finally, and this is the most important thing. This is an incredibly divisive measure. It turns neighbor against neighbor. Now, to be fair, Tara and Leo have been fighting for years. But it turns neighbor against neighbor. It's making me turn against the people who my property is adjacent to who are not in the district and they haven't even done anything. It turns neighborhood against neighborhood. It turns customer against business. It turns citizens against elected officials. It imposes too harsh a detriment on too few people and too little benefit to everyone else. And finally, I will be voting to support the school. I will be voting to support the North Acton Fire Station. I don't get very much from either of those things. I suppose you can say that the school is in my neighborhood and it supports my real estate value, but I'm doing it because I believe they're important and because I'm a public-minded citizen. I have come out for some of you before for some of your issues. I stood up there for Kelly's Corner. I got on the plastic bag bandwagon, okay? I am asking you to take my current concerns and the concerns of my neighbors as seriously as you seem to be taking the concerns of a handful of commercial property owners. Thank you.
Tara Fredericks, West Acton, what she said, except for, I don't think Leo and I are fighting, but I did meet him when he came down and asked me to take out my corporations are not people sign out of my yard and argued for corporations being people. But I've been spending a lot of my time knocking on doors of people in very low and extremely low income housing units, and they didn't know, the renters didn't know about this, so they didn't know that they could vote no to something that will probably impact them. That's the first thing. The second thing is that is like, will they look at a warrant and translate complicated legal language into understanding that $100 a month increase in their rent can be voted, they can vote no to help prevent that? I don't think so. So I feel like that should be sent around to them somehow. The gallery is empty in West Acton, I believe, because they doubled the rent. So I know people that offered to rent the place at the original rent. And yeah. Anyway, what she said, thanks.
Okay. Oh, one more.
One more. Ruth Thatcher, 124 Prospect, but I'm here on behalf of the West Acton Baptist Church, which is in the sewer district. I agree with everything that these ladies have said. The church would need to increase rents of people that use our building. They're not rents, they're donations that we give, but we would have to ask them to increase. That is a co-op school and AA groups. Now, these people can just about make a donation now, but they would be the people that we would have to turn to make up this revenue that we would have to expend for the sewer, for the church. And also, thinking about putting new restaurants in West Acton, where are the patrons going to park their cars?
Thank you.
Just one other comment about the folks living in the very low-income apartments. I was knocking on doors and seeing people that were severely disabled that won't be able to get to town meeting. And so I wish that you could put this off or whatever. I know some people just want to get it done, but like what we did at Spencer Tuttle, where we take a survey of people that would pay for it to see what they thought. So, thank you.
David?
I certainly understand a lot of the issues that Nancy Waters brought up. I'm not sure how to deal with them. I think we're the only community in the Commonwealth that does 100% betterment-supported sewers. And that's because that's what we voted for a long time ago. I certainly would be open to changing that. I don't know how to change it, and I doubt that the outcome would be very different than it was 25 years ago. 25 years ago, the people who were not getting sewer in South Acton were adamant that they were not paying for the sewer, right? They did not want any of the sewer paid for out of general tax revenue. Even now for this project, there's some people in South Acton. There was somebody at the League of Women Voters Forum who was concerned about just the design money for this project possibly not being reimbursed to the ratepayers in South Acton, and that's a very small fraction of the money for the project, and it is being reimbursed by the project. But there's very strong concern about not paying for what I don't get, and so again, we're the only community that does that. Just by way of example, all the things that Nancy Waters brought up are. I haven't looked at all those examples, but I believe that those are probably all correct. I know that there are things in between too, where some of the very low rates that she said and where we are, which is probably the highest rate. So, for example, Concord, I think, supports 1/3 of the capital cost of their sewers out of general tax revenue, and 2/3 paid for by betterment. So we could choose to do that, but then people in South Acton will say, why didn't they get 1/3 or 2/3? And maybe, I don't know the details of as Nancy Waters proposes of rebating some value back to amounts people paid 20 years ago, and whether they're the same people or I don't know how that could be managed. But I completely understand the cost. But let me say though that the betterment cost here is very close to the cost of a replacement septic system. It is true that you pay it ahead instead of behind. But in actual cases, in constant dollars, it's likely to be more expensive to replace your septic system than the betterments. But I understand. It's just a matter of the way we've decided to do things 25 years ago.
May I address that? I don't have all the statistics in front of me. I wish Chris Williams was here. But we have very good statistics that show that the average cost of the standard septic systems that most of us in the proposed district have would be about $30,000. That's less than the betterment, and certainly less than betterment hookup, permitting, interest on the betterment, and paying $750 to $1,100 a year in sewer fees. We've got reams of graphs that show 4 or 5 different scenarios, how much more expensive this is. When I first heard about this project, I thought, oh, they're going to charge me $12,000 or $15,000, but I'm going to be saving the groundwater and saving the river. I can live with that, but we're not. We're not contributing anything worse to the river, the groundwater, anything than any other part of town. Why are we high priority?
So some of the things there are not quite correct. About $30,000 or $29,000 maybe is about as low a cost as you could get in a replacement septic system in 2019. And the cost of the betterments is fixed for the next 30 years. First of all, they are to start with, even if you were to pay them off with no interest, in $2023. And by the time we get to $2023, there'll be no such thing as a $29,000 replacement septic system. And that replacement septic system means that there are no improvements to that septic system required by the Board of Health. And many of the systems require that those improvements be made. You know, whether they're, I don't want to go into all the details, but the average cost of a septic system is higher than that minimum cost.
Hi, Al Wojcik, Heather Hill Road. I'm curious to know more from the municipal end why there's no financial figures or numbers in the article at all. I'm sure it'll come up tomorrow night in the FinCom meeting, but I was a little surprised to see nothing here. If we're asking to raise, appropriate from available funds or borrow a sum of money, that we'd know what that sum of money.
Can I answer that? That's,
yeah.
That's normal practice,
it
that
is.
the dollar amount is in the motion. That's what we all do for almost every article in annual town meeting. The dollar amount is in the motion, not in the article.
I see. Okay. So we're listing figures for all the other articles, but not in this one? Pardon my ignorance on that.
So the I don't know about the case of the fire station. In the case of the school, the wording was prescribed by the MSBA.
Okay.
And as some people said up here, it's actually not the amount we're paying. Right. It's the 116 million is the amount of the project.
Right. And then we have the figures for the fire station as well, but there's no mention in here of any figures at all. When will those be put forward in front of the citizens? How much will be bonding or looking to bond?
So so we have an approved $13 million.
I mean, I know the figures because I've seen them, because you've put them in front of us. I'm just wondering why it's not obvious to those that we're going to be asking to vote on.
Maybe those should be in the summary then, or something.
That's where I expected it to be.
Or estimated to be.
Apologies. I actually meant somewhere within here, not necessarily the article itself, but there's nothing in the summary that says how much.
Point taken.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tara?
Just one last thing, that what's not also not clear is that the original South Acton sewer with the Woodard and Curran proposal went to 18 million and then ended up being 25 million. So once you get the sewer project started, you know, there's nothing stopping it from increasing that price. We ended up with the highest usage fees in the state. It came down a little bit when we notified, you know, we brought that forward, but they're one of the top 3 usage rates in the state, and partially I believe it's because of overruns or things that weren't disclosed at the beginning. That once you authorize it, then it could be much higher than what you're currently proposing. Thank you.
Can I respond to that as well? And so that's essentially wrong. There were several projects in the time we did the South Acton thing, and they were separate. There was a project for running the sewer pipes, essentially, and there was a separate article at a separate time for the treatment plant. Because at one point, we thought we might hook into the Maynard treatment plant, and there were negotiations with Maynard, and those didn't work out, and so we built our own treatment plant. And then there was some supplemental work. There was actually a third article for some supplemental work, and but that wasn't. First of all, that had additional work, and second of all, it was because the design of the original septic system was not as detailed as the design we have for this one. So that's essentially false information.
Yes, sir.
Hi, if I can just provide some up-to-date information. So just now downstairs, the Board of Health, they voted unanimously to support the sewer project, and 2 of the 5 full members are residents of West Acton. So I just thought that'd be up-to-date information you'd want to know for tonight. And then regarding the cost estimates, so I'm the one that pulled all the cost estimates for replacement septic systems, and they all came from the health department's loan program. So when you're hearing 30,000, what they were doing was taking 3 of the 5 quotes, 3 of the quotes that I provided, and just averaging them up together. And one of those quotes was for Old High Street, which isn't a high priority area like West Acton or Spencer Total Flint or Indian Village. So I looked at other high priority areas, and that's what I put out there on the website. Other high priority areas like West Acton had sewer quotes from 2014 and 2016 that were on the low end 30,000, and on the high end they were 37, 47,000. So you escalate that up to 2023, assume 2% inflation, you're in the same ballpark as, and averaging them together doesn't really get you anything real because nobody pays the average, you pay for a system. So just a little bit more information.
The people who ask for a loan from the town are only going to be some subset, perhaps a minority. That's not representative. Also, the cost of septic replacement is only relevant if you think it's going to happen, according to all the statistical analysis that Chris Williams and Mike Geis have done, and they've done an excellent job. I wish they were here tonight. They'll be at both of the town meetings. Only 63% of the 200 families in the proposed sewer district are likely to need to replace their system over the next 20 to 30 years. A 30-year statistic is not relevant to me. I'm only planning on being in town for another 5 to 8 years. It's a risk. I could have to replace my septic. There's another big issue. You are asking people to pay for systems they will not use. The only way they can make it worth it is to turn off the septic and use the system, but that is a waste. That is an economic and an environmental waste. People think it's, environmentally better to give up the car they've got that gets 25 miles a gallon and then go get an electric car, but it's not. Any of the environmentalists and economists will tell you we should use what we have until it's finished, because a huge part of the cost comes from the manufacturing. In this case, you're going to be producing all this pipe and laying all this pipe, investing all that money in something 63% of us don't, most of us don't want. 63% of us won't need for 20 or 30 years. It's just a colossal waste, and there's no good reason.
Okay. I think
So
we've
if
heard
you-
enough, Tara.
I just want to say friendsofwestacton.org, and people can...
So let me say, in Ms. Walker's case, if she's only going to be in town for the next 6 years or something, she only has to pay one-fifth of the.
No, you pass on the betterment as part of your real estate costs. People have told us they don't want to take on that betterment. That adds $160 a month to whatever the person who buys my house is going to have to pay for their mortgage payment. Young families don't want to take that on. I'm sorry.
Please.
Actually, young families do want to take that on. In fact, far and away, the number of people approaching the committee, really, the young people buying houses in West Acton really do not want to deal with the septic system.
All right. I think where we are is what position we want to take on this article.
Yeah, if I could first address the summary. I agree that it probably should have some financial information, and it's similar to the fire station, which has got updated project cost and proposed financing. The actual number will be in the motion, and the town cannot borrow any more than is authorized in the motion. But I think it would be helpful to have in the summary some kind of a financial number for people to see.
I think those numbers are known and can be put in the summary.
Absolutely.
John?
I do know Nancy, and I was very taken by what she had to say. Would it make any sense for us to step back on this article, or are you intent on proceeding?
Well, like I said before, I mean, I completely understand her arguments in the beginning, and we're the only community that does the 100%, resident, property owner paid betterment to support the entire project. But that's the, and I'm not using this as an excuse, but that's the way we voted. And if you were going to step back, I mean, do you think that the town would vote another way?
Well, that was 25 years ago, and we had a checkered history with sewers when we had the opportunity to have the federal government pay for 90% or close to 100%. The town wouldn't step up and accept that, and we wouldn't be in the situation we're in today. And the only way South Acton got their sewers, I mean, there was a compelling argument. You had systems in parts of South Acton that were just failing, and the properties would have to be condemned. But the only way the town was going to accept it at that time, 25 years ago, was if the users, paid for the system. Now, whether that's attitude is, changed now, obviously it's changed in, in other towns, but I'm really, very fearful. We're headed for I think, a very certain defeat on, town meeting floor. Because those were very compelling arguments that Nancy made.
So I will say, again, I'm not going to argue with the fact that it would be possible to share the cost across the town. I just don't see the political will for that. In fact, I see the people in South Acton being really against that. And I don't know. They got up on the town meeting floor when we were just doing the design and objected to it. And I will say that there are many people who are really in favor of this sewer district, and not only the business owners, right? There's a woman who wrote a letter to the Beacon last Thursday, and you can go read the Beacon in favor of the sewer system. I didn't ask her to write that letter; she just wrote that letter on her own. No input from the committee or anybody on what were the contents of that letter, and many people have approached the committee and are very interested in being in the sewer district. I mean, I'm not insensitive to the costs, but I also don't think that there's another way to do it. I don't think the town would vote another way.
Dean?
Yeah, I think one of the issues that I would have with following John's philosophy of holding off on this is it would certainly give us some uncertainty as to when it would come up again. There'd certainly be, I could see delaying this thing a year or so to try to figure out all these issues and try to change the bylaw and to basically hand a property tax increase to every voter in town. This being on top of the tax increases that they could be facing if the school and the fire station project pass. And I think importantly, there should be some certainty for the schools as to whether, if their school project passes, if they're going to be able to tie into the sewer, or if they're going to have to design their own sewer treatment plant and handle the problem themselves on their site. And it sort of throws the whole thing into uncertainty. So I think it would have been helpful, and I've been away for the last week, but at one of the meetings, the school superintendent said that the school district had not yet taken a position whether to support the sewers or whether to embrace the idea of sewer access for the new twin school or not.
That was correct as of last night.
So they still haven't.
Yeah.
It would have been helpful if they had taken that position one way or another.
So there are two things about the school. First of all, the school project, both these projects have to be able to exist if one passes town meeting, the other one doesn't, right? And to that end, from the school's point of view, they've designed a septic system. The Board of Health is requiring that they improve it a little bit. The septic system that they originally designed was just over $500,000. It's probably going to be a little bit more than that because the Board of Health required them to do a little bit of improvement. It's a mounted system. At one end, it's mounted to 10 feet. So I've said that it's not a very good field to play kickball on. So the school can exist. The sewer project, if the school was not a part of the sewer project, the school is about 4% of the project. So if the school was not part of the system, the rates would go up by an average of 4%. And finally, there is a general presumption that the school would hook up. There is no commitment, but the superintendent has said that there's a number of advantages to the school, especially the use of the property, not being mounted. So it allows them to be more flexible with what they do.
Okay, is there a motion on this?
I would move that the Board of Selectmen support the sewer article, Article 3.
Is there a second?
I will second the motion, but I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
Philosophically, I'm in favor of this project. And I think there'd be some great benefits for most of West Acton. However, I can see it's very contentious. It could be that this will fail, but I've got a long enough memory in this town to know that these things fail and come back and fail and come back. So I will second the motion.
Okay. Peter?
No, I agree we should move forward. I think that having been on the school building committee, the consequences to the schools to not have an option to tie into the sewers has an impact on the project. So I think from my perspective, it is a better option for the schools to have the ability to tie in. So I support keeping it in there, and I support recommending it.
John, do you want to say anything?
At this point, I'm not going to vote against it. I would abstain from the vote.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
4 and 1 abstention. Okay, is there anything else, John, on the warrant?
No, we'll include your recommendations. The Finance Committee is meeting tomorrow night, and then we'll get their recommendations, and we'll go to print later this week after we add a paragraph about the numbers in the West Acton article. We'll probably do that before the Finance Committee. I'm sure they'll appreciate that.
Okay. And the third week in December is December 17th, special town election. And voters will be required to vote question 1, Acton Boxborough Regional School District Elementary School. And this is to exempt the cost of that from 2.5. Question 2 is the North Acton Fire Station. And again, that's to exempt the cost of that from 2.5. And the Minuteman Regional School District, again, to allow us to exempt the provision of that from 2.5. So it's going to be a busy December.
You asking us to comment on this, or?
Just, we wanted to make sure to take the opportunity to explain to the public how the actions that are being requested at this special election relate to the special town meeting that we just discussed. The main point that I think I'd like to make clear, if I have the opportunity,
You do?
is that there are 3 articles on the special town meeting warrant: the school, the fire station, and the sewer, and there are 3 questions on the special election ballot. The first question aligns with the first article, the second question aligns with the second article, but the third question is entirely different from the third article in the special town meeting warrant. So in the special town meeting warrant, the third article is related to sewer. In the special town election, the third article is related to the Minuteman Regional High School, which recently held their grand opening, and the construction was completed. This town meeting approved the project in 2016, and the second step required to exclude debt had not been taken until we're proposing to do so on December 17th. So I just wanted to clarify the 3 matters are slightly different.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So just so for information purposes, the reason the sewer bonding, should it pass at town meeting, would not be on the election ballot is because it's an enterprise fund, is my understanding, and that's outside of Prop 2.5. You don't need an override for an enterprise fund. Is that
Correct. The sewer project only requires town meeting action to authorize the project to move forward. Correct. There is no ballot question required.
Okay, and then the other question is, I can't remember past ballots, but I guess we never put money in these. Is there somewhere we explain to voters what the amounts are for each one of these things?
We're doing our best to communicate that information in as many ways as we can, including in the special town meeting warrant, which is why we have so much cost detail in the fire station article, so that people know what to look for when they're thinking about the ballot question. With the Minuteman Regional School, we're going to try to communicate that information as best we can. The cost of the project, we estimate to be 11.5 million is a share that we'll be paying based on what we know today. But what we know today changes because of the allocation of our assessment is based on an enrollment. So that could vary throughout the years, what we actually end up having to pay. But that's what the best information we have today is that that's what we will owe.
Okay, I think the moderator did grant us time at the town meeting to explain something about the vote on the regional district high school debt. So that's a way to get it.
Yeah, I'm planning on doing that. I think the key thing here, it came up at our tri-board meeting where John corrected an erroneous assumption I had, that I was in pretty good company because Jason Cole had the same misconception, and Janet Adachi when I spoke about it several days later. It's very similar to the Twin School project, where the borrowers, the Minuteman Regional Vocational Technical School District, it is not the town of Acton. Our allocable share of that borrowing is what we seek to exclude from 2.5. And that amount is probably somewhere in the $10 to $12 million over the next 25 to 30 years, but that number could adjust, and the monies that will come to pay our allocable share would be from the 2.5 exclusion. And I think that's the point we have to get across. It's not we're not borrowing that money, sitting on the money, and then paying it back. It's just the year-to-year allocable share that we're going outside of 2.5 to raise the funds for.
Okay. Are we, anything else on town meeting? Okay. Permitting fees.
Just a quick note to the board that there's been a lot of discussion about the school project and the fact that it's going to be permitted through our local permitting office, and how does that relate to the fee schedule. And I've been working with our land use staff and the superintendent, and we've identified a way that we can both pay for our direct costs, including any third-party costs that we would incur to do the inspections and code review and special things that you need to do when you're inspecting a big building project, but also not negatively impact the school project budget. So based on the contingencies that they have in the project budget and the fees that we believe we're going to need to do the project, we're both comfortable with where we are right now. Just wanted to make sure you're all aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Adopt community compact best practices.
We didn't do the fees, did we? Do we need any?
No, we don't have to do that.
That's my agenda. I'm not seeking a vote.
On these?
Well, no, that's coming up, number 8. I think number 7 is adopt community compact best practices. It's been a busy month and a busy week. If the board is interested, we can defer this discussion.
Okay.
It is important. It's something I want to move forward on, but I would
Okay.
suggest we move on.
Yeah, all right. Let's go to review and approve updated town clerk fee schedule, including proposed dog license fees.
So, thank you. So, our town clerk, Eva, who's here, if we have any questions, and her team did some analysis of our fee schedule, which hasn't been changed in many years, and the work that they do, and also the way that the work they do has changed. And we have a recommendation to update the town clerk's fee schedule as provided in the memo. Just to give you a few examples, the birth, death, and marriage certificates they issue, the corrections of vital records, marriage intentions, all those things take time and resources in the town clerk's office, and the fees that we're charging aren't covering the time and the resources that's required. So that's the impetus for the recommended changes.
Peter?
There's a motion in the memo from yourself that's got numbers attached to it. I'm not sure what vitals are. I assume those are death.
That's the birth, death, marriage. That's
All right, the numbers are different than what's in the town clerk's memo. So the town clerk is requesting to raise birth, death, and marriage certificates from $5 to $10, and the motion has vitals $30.
Well, I'm glad that we asked Eva to join us, because she's going to clarify that for us. What's your recommendation?
Thank you. In the memo to John, we did put to move from $5 to $10, and I'm sorry, I don't know where the 30 is listed.
Is that what you consider vitals, those
Vital
documents?
records are any birth certificates, death certificates,
Okay, so
and
that's
marriage
what you want to
licenses.
raise to $10? Okay, and then he's got marriage licenses to $30, well, a vital amendment, let's go down the list to $20. Is that your recommendation too?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the first one is 10, the 20 stays the same. Marriage licenses, I don't know if that's the same as marriage intentions, but from 20 to $30, is
Yes.
that? Okay, so that's accurate. Business certificate, you were requesting in your memo
30.
to 30, okay, so I guess that's correct, and then underground storage is 25, so it's just really the first one, instead of 30, it's 10, I guess.
Yes, my apologies.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Excuse me, Eva, could I ask a question? So just for my understanding, and sorry, my ignorance, this is the cost for filing one of these documents, for example, like a birth certificate. To get a copy is a different fee, we're not discussing those here.
Yeah, to request a copy of it, we currently charge $5 for birth certificates, death certificates, and marriage, copies of marriage licenses. And that's what we want to move up to $10.
Oh, I see, okay. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, I would move to approve the request for fee schedule adjustments for the following, effective January 1st, 2020. This applies to the town clerk's office. Vitals records would increase from $5 to $10. A vital amendment would increase to $20. A marriage license increase to $30. A new business certificate increased to $30. A business certificate renewal increased to $30. An underground storage certificate, $25. And those are fees for filing those documents with the town clerk.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now there's another motion to add $2 to the dog license fee.
Yes, so the Acton's Dog Park Committee had submitted a recommendation to the town for the board's consideration to increase the fees for dog licensing, which are done on an annual basis, by $2 in each case. And that recommendation is provided in the attached memo.
Claire?
Claire Siska, 14 Stowe Street. I'm chair of the Acton Dog Park Committee. Since 2017, Acton Dog Park Committee has met with the Board of Selectmen 4 times. Each time we have provided sound, well-researched documentation for how and why dog parks benefit not just dogs and dog owners, but entire communities, including improving physical and emotional health for its citizens, reductions in dog-on-human and dog-on-dog aggression, higher property values, fewer dogs surrendered to shelters, and more. The fact that nearly 800 dog parks now exist across the country should be evidence enough that there is something very right about a dog park. In April 2019, responding to this justification, this board approved a charter directing our committee to identify funds for and build a dog park. So it is no longer a question of whether or not Acton should or will have a dog park, but rather where and when. As you know, we've been working closely with the board, the town manager, and other departments on this project, and we are hopeful that the board will approve a site for the park in the spring of 2020. In order to apply for the Stanton Foundation grants, which will form the bulk of the park's design and construction funding, the town needs to commit to a 10% or approximately $25,000 construction match. Waiting for CPA funds, which we have missed for this year, would put us well into 2021 before we can apply for those grants. As a town committee, we are prohibited from fundraising. but a Friends of the Acton Dog Park group has begun to form for the purpose of raising funds and maintaining the park. The approximately $4,000 raised from an increase in dog license fees in the spring of 2020 would give them a good start on that $25,000 goal. An increase in dog license fees also targets the primary users of the park, which is dog owners, so that other citizens need not be concerned about being taxed for something they may not use. Long-term, the funds will provide the park with a $4,000 annual maintenance budget for dog waste bags, fence repairs, and the like. We have previously submitted to you a budget for that same amount. Finally, after nearly 2.5 years of effort on the part of this committee, approval of this increase would give the Dog Park Committee a shot in the arm, signifying a commitment of support by the board for the work that you have tasked us with. And I would like to briefly, it's come to my attention that there was submitted to the Board of Selectmen some concern on the part of a citizen, and I would like to briefly address those concerns if I might. Okay. Number one, if a dog park number one, other forms of recreation in Acton are self-funding, so should a dog park. Correct me if I'm wrong, but recreation facilities that are supported by the town are conservation lands, a skate park, playgrounds. Jones Field is being renovated. We've committed over $250,000 to that. NARA and the Arboretum, we're asking for $2 per dog, which is $4,000 a year. Another issue, if a dog park becomes a reality in Acton, it will be used by many from out of town. Why is that an issue? I go to other towns. I go to this town forest in other towns. People come to Acton and they use their conservation lands. They use our library. They use our skate park. It brings in revenue to the town. I'd like to understand more about why there's an objection to people coming. And if more towns have dog parks, people will go to their own dog park. Another issue that has been not adequately, reading from his email. Another issue that has not been adequately addressed is the extent to which professional dog walkers will use a dog park. We as a committee are just certainly not at that point yet. We're still looking for a site. It's certainly something that we can address, and we would look at what other towns do. I was at the Chelmsford Dog Park this weekend. They have a limit of 2 dogs per adult. So we could certainly look at that, but our timing is just, we're not at that point yet. Another quote, an appropriate way to fund the maintenance of a dog park could be for users to pay an annual fee or an entry fob and a sticker. We can certainly discuss that. It's not what our vision was. Our vision was an all-inclusive park. I like to think of it as not specifically a dog park, but a dog that happens to be safe for and welcome dogs. And so we would certainly want people who are non-dog owners to feel free to come and use it. And then there's a comment about whether or not the majority of dog owners feel the need for a fenced dog park, and, quote, why should we all pay for a dog owner's lack of training on his or her pet? Again, we have well documented the need. Not all dogs can be off-leash. Not everyone has or can afford a fenced yard. Blind, handicapped dogs, puppies, and rescues and training cannot be safely off-leash. That does not mean that their owners are bad people or haven't trained them. And I'm really concerned about the double standard that seems to be put in place. I don't know, we've supported a lot of recreational facilities in Acton. We have 2,000 dogs in Acton. And are people who bring kids to playgrounds bad parents? Have they not trained them well? We're asking for a safe place for dogs to socialize and exercise. I don't see the difference. So forgive my cheekiness. We're happy to entertain any questions.
Peter?
Yeah, I just want to make a point about one of your comments and about other recreation programs. It's my understanding that NARA was built by selling the gravel that was available there in a gravel pit, and the town didn't invest any general revenue money into building it, and it continues to operate from user fees every year. You talk about the Arboretum or conservation lands, those are not recreation programs. Those are different programs. All the recreation programs that are run through the rec department, and Kathy's here, I don't know if I'm accurate about this, but it's my understanding that they all pay for themselves by the user fees.
Okay, so, but I stand corrected on that, but still, we've brought to your attention that we can bring over $250,000 to creation of the park. We're trying to create a targeted tax so that we can, you've asked us to find money for maintenance, and we felt that, $2 fee, which is fairly small, addressed to owners of dogs would be fair, and we will, the Friends of the Acton Dog Parks will continue to find other ways to fund it.
David?
Yeah, I think this is, well, first of all, the creation of the park is roughly equivalent to what we do with other recreation areas. They have the possibility of getting a grant and some CPA funding. They're not asking for any general town revenue to create the park. Maybe some land, but that's true for, I think, for all the recreation facilities. And I think that I also think that the committee's done a pretty good job, considering it's a little bit of a tough thing to create the dog park, because a lot of people don't want a dog park in their backyard because there are preconceived notions that about what it might be like. I'm not sure that all those things are true, but still those notions exist. So anyway, I think that the committee's done a pretty good job under circumstances where it's difficult to make headway. And I think that the adding the license fee is, first of all, modest, and second of all, as close as you could get really for a user fee without putting a ticket taker at the entrance to the park, and some enforcement of stickers and stuff. And I find that distasteful anyway. I don't want to put fence people out of our recreation areas. So I think the committee's doing a good job. Not done yet, but I think that this modest increase of fees is good.
Dean?
I just have a question for the manager. As far as, is there some mechanism by which you can manage this money as a separate fund? Is this inapplicable for an enterprise fund or a recreation revolving fund or something, so that if this additional funding is approved, there's some way that it can be tracked and managed and dedicated to that purpose?
At this point, it's my understanding that the funding that we would receive if the fee were to be increased would be general fund revenue, and it wouldn't be a way to directly earmark it, but it could be appropriated at town meeting.
Thank you.
Peter?
Yeah, I just had one other question. That's a good point, that town meeting would weigh in on whether that money should be dedicated to this would start January 1st, so I suppose next year's budget, some money would be available, I guess. What's the process for citing the dog park? They're now proposing, and I don't have a strong objection to the fees, but that was one question I had about how it works in town financing law. But what's the process for citing it? The dog park committee is proposing that it be on the Main Street property. I think that was purchased for general town purposes. I don't remember the exact warrant article, but I don't think it was assigned to necessarily a specific use, except that I guess town meeting was aware that the housing authority was going to build on it and approve that. But do we need a town meeting vote to cite it on Main Street?
That'll be a question that I can be prepared to answer when you have the discussion of that potential location. But generally, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know that you would, because general municipal covers most things. But there may be requirements with the Stanton Foundation grant that I don't know about, or CPA considerations that I haven't thought about. So I believe that the committee intends to bring that forward for your consideration after the town meeting season. That's ahead of us, and I'll be prepared to provide that information at that time.
Am I allowed to just comment on that? I certainly defer to the board and to the town manager. My personal memory of town meeting, and what I've been in discussion with Matt Selby, is that the purchase agreement with, sorry, I'm just trying to go from memory. The purchase agreement with the AHA left the Board of Selectmen in control of what would happen with those two parcels. That's my memory, but I certainly defer to what you guys find out legally. And so we had preliminary discussions with the AHA before the vote, and at that point, we certainly need to revisit with them and the other neighbors, but they were amenable to having that discussion with us, and the concept is that we would work with them and place the dog park atop their septic system. We've had discussions with Tom Tidman about how that could be done, and apparently there's some information that's helpful to us from the siting of the septic for the schools in West Acton.
Anyone else? Dean?
I do think I would encourage the town manager to bring something forward to us, because I think we do have to come to a decision whether approval of the site is going to be something done by the Board of Selectmen or by town meeting. It's certainly not as confrontational as the West Acton sewers, but there's certainly people with passions on both sides of it.
David?
I'd like to move to request a fee adjustment for dog licenses effective January 1st, 2020 to the following: an altered dog, $17,000. $17. Unaltered dog, $22.
That will help finance.
And the $2 increase in fees being intended for use for dog park maintenance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Kathy?
I just wanted to add a couple comments. Kathy Fochman. I'm a supporter of the dog park and currently heading up the effort to be the Friends of the Dog Park. I wanted to mention that one of the things we want to do is to reduce the burden of oversight on the Recreation Department. So having this annual fee going towards maintenance will go a long way to reduce that burden. It's important to have a regular income source for maintenance. From my tenure with the Recreation Department, sometimes it's difficult to spread your resources around. So I think this will be very helpful. And also, just in support of the idea of not charging people at the door, I think that our town, and certainly the National Parks and Rec Association, believes in social equity. And I think having an open dog park that's available for people who are dog owners, who perhaps have mobility issues or other issues that hold them back from being able to take advantage of our open conservation areas, is an important asset for us to bring forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, motion made. Now we're on to designate response to DHCD 30-day letter for comments on Grandview, Acton.
This is the project that you reviewed and sent in your signature as the board's support for it. And this is simply the procedural step that follows that, where they ask the town to submit comments within 30 days of receipt. So we could do what we've done in the past, is just resend a previous letter, but I wanted to make sure that the board had the opportunity to make that decision, how you want to handle it.
I think that's a good idea. Any comments?
Yeah, I had one comment, since we have sustainability issue coming up on the agenda as well. The question came up when the developer was here asking for the initial approval to submit this application about whether he would consider electric heat pumps to heat the buildings. He said he would certainly consider it. My experience with him is he's an honorable man and follows up with what he says, but I'm looking at page 34 of the application, and he's got the fuel source indicated is it's going to be electric. So if he doesn't put electric source heat pumps in there, at least he's not going to put connect up to the gas lines, and he'll be using electric heat. So.
Okay, so do we want to take a motion, or can we just?
Did you want to add that into the letter, or just a comment?
But that was just a comment. He does indicate other, they ask for any energy efficient materials. He's got his other green initiatives he's going to take in building the project, but I'm not sure you need to mention that. I'm happy. I think we support it that overall. So.
Actually, I think it might not hurt to make that comment. And also, when he was here, we talked a little bit about providing charging spaces for electric cars, and he said that something that he would consider, and I think that might be worth mentioning as well, that, you know, even if it's just a thank you for considering or encouraging the presence of electric car charging spaces.
Okay, we can make those changes and have for the chairs to finalize, and we can submit on the chair's behalf.
And it also, this is, if I'm correct, it's an age 55 and older community.
Okay, item 10, discuss results of the request for interest in the surplus town property located at 3 School Street, the old Civil Defense Building, and consider next steps.
So earlier this year, the board took a vote to declare that parcel and the building on it surplus, and directed us to take the initial step of issuing a request for interest. We issued a request for interest and put it out on the street, so to speak, and we received 2 inquiries. One gentleman that was interested in acquiring the property to use it for their own miscellaneous use and storage, and another person expressed interest in turning it into some sort of commercial use below with an apartment above, and they also owned property next door, and they proposed to make it into some mixed-use type of development. So just wanted to report on those results, and then see some of the options we could do for next steps are we could just hold, do nothing, or we could issue an RFP that provides the public an opportunity to submit proposals to formally seek to purchase the parcel based on terms and conditions that the board deems appropriate. Another option would be simply a bid. Say, we want to sell it, give us your best price. But you don't have this, that doesn't give you the ability to say things that you want there. So I just wanted to bring that forward. If you were interested in sort of this development proposal idea, I think that timing-wise, it would be recommended to consider that in time to have the town take action at town meeting, the annual town meeting.
Well, let's continue to move ahead. And I think request for proposals is a good idea.
Madam Chair?
Yeah?
Yeah, I agree with you that we should move ahead. I think, looking at these 2 statements of interest, just having it get sold and used for storage, it really doesn't provide any kind of an overall benefit to South Acton other than we get a minimal amount of tax revenue out of it. I think it's important that if we do go ahead with an RFP, that it be something that's going to encourage some commercial and residential activity down there and try to revitalize the center. So I think that, I would certainly think that should be a focus of the RFP process.
Peter?
No, I would agree completely with that, living around the corner from that site. I mean, we always reserve the right to reject all bids. We don't have to accept the bids if we don't like any of them. It's all right. So, but I would agree that some commercial development along that stretch would be very much preferred.
Okay. David?
I also completely agree with what Dean said, and I think we should keep our options open for what gets put there, and not just accept the just a pure bid process.
Okay, you all set?
Move forward in that course of action.
Okay. Oh, Futures Act, an act to promote clean energy future, Senate number 2302. It only weighs a half a pound.
Yes, hi, I'm Judith Ehrenstein, 3 Gregory Lane in Acton. I'm coordinator of Mothers Out Front. And I was at the hearing this week at the TUE, the Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy this week. And they were considering the Future Act. We also, Ed Wohl is here with me, who's from HEAT, which you may have heard of. They've the Home Energy Efficiency Team. Is that what it stands for? They do a lot of work with the legislation. Anyways, we just were at the Green Advisory Board, and we presented there, and they had a discussion, and they didn't feel like they were ready to recommend a resolution at this point. So I don't know if you move ahead without their recommendation. I'd like to present, and I guess you would consider doing that. So I will continue. I will say that there are 10 other towns that have done a resolution in support of the Future Act. 12. Okay, I don't know all of them. Arlington, Brookline, Cambridge, Hopkinton, Lincoln, Worcester, Weston, Wellfleet, Somerville, Newton, and 2 others that I probably don't know are on board. So the Future Act, Ed will really give an explanation of it, but I have kind of a story that sort of really brings it home to me why it's so important. I have 3 kids, and they're 29 and 26 and 26. I have twins. And when they were little, there were things that were just an imperative. They were non-negotiable. You'll kind of relate to it if you have children. They had to brush their teeth in the morning and in the evening. And when the car was moving, they had to have their seatbelt on. So as they got older, I was reminiscing one day, and I said, you know, when I was a kid, we didn't have seatbelts. And they were, no way, how's that a thing? Cars have seatbelts. So I said, no, they did not have seatbelts. So I love to kind of push forward into time and think, well, what are they going to say to their kids? And this is what I truly imagine they're going to say. When we were kids, we lived in a town and a state in a country where gas was piped thousands of miles under high pressure down to like 60 pounds per square inch in Acton through leaky pipes. And this gas was primarily methane. And we knew methane was toxic. And in fact, when they started producing it, they put an odorant in it because if it leaked, people could smell it and then it would get out of the house before it exploded. We've all known about Merrimack Valley. So their kids would be like, no, that's not possible. Even more than my kids. They'd be just like, wait. And they'll say, no, well, actually, what was even wilder is that we would light it on fire in our kitchens. We had flames. I mean, this is like 20 years out, you know, and the kids are going to be like, no way. But what's even more wild is that people knew at the time that gas was methane gas was a greenhouse gas that was 85 times more potent than carbon dioxide. And that's over a 20-year period, and in my mind, that's about what we've got to deal with. And of course, their kids would be like, wait, why would they continue to use this toxic gas if they knew it was such a potent greenhouse gas? So what the future bill does is it looks at natural gas and the companies and the safety and the health of our individuals and also our climate. And it starts to regulate through the DPU the utility companies in the way, the gas utility, in the way that the electric utility companies have been regulated. We know that they have to increase their renewable portfolio standard, the renewables, every year. The gas companies don't have that regulation. So the Future Act starts to deal with that, and it also redefines what the gas companies do, because their definition is they deliver gas. And this will change that so that they can deliver thermal energy. And that will make a huge difference, because if suddenly they can deliver something other than gas, then they can start thinking about technologies that are forward-thinking and get off of gas. So I'm really here to urge you to support the resolution, to be sure that our children can tell their children a story that's not just of deep remorse and regret, but really of bold progress. This is a very progressive bill, and I urge you to move in the right direction for the safety of our future. And I can answer questions, and Ed can as well.
Well, the resolution refers to House 2849 and Senate 1940.
Correct.
And this Senate bill is 2302.
I don't know the numbers, frankly. What's...
Hi, my name's Edward Wall. I'm a resident of Cambridge, formerly was in Wayland for many, many years, and moved out of there 12 years ago. And I've been involved with something called the Gas Leaks Allies, which is 25 organizations that are NGOs, as well as some commercially oriented organizations like Mass Solar, who are in Conservation Law Foundation and a bunch of others who have been working on closing gas leaks and moving off gas. Since then, we've been successful in the last 3 sessions in getting legislation passed. It is Senate 1940 and House Bill 2849. I don't know what the other one is. I could look it up on my phone, but I just don't know what it is. You probably know something about the Future Act, but let me give you a summary of it, and please stop me if I'm repeating what you already know. It has 3 main focuses. One is to close off gas leaks, and that is to close off the most dangerous leaks first and also the most environmentally significant leaks. And it anticipates that at some point we'll move off gas, so it'll be an interim period where we'll still be on gas for a number of years, and we still are suffering the hazard of what is a decrepit system. For example, Acton has right now 219 unrepaired leaks, and 37 only were repaired in 2018. And across the state, we're getting more leaks than are repaired. That testifies to the decrepit nature of the system. In some towns, are different than others. I've looked at the sustainability policy of the town, and this Future Act fits quite well with the goals of the Sustainability Act, including the fact that Acton has supported the and going on its own to support the climate movement, and including the mayor's effort to enlist town to support the climate movement and the bill that, with the treaty that the president has just renounced. The focus from a gas leak standpoint really has a lot of practical aspects to it. And a lot of those arose out of the Merrimack Valley disaster. One was the suggestion by not just the Future Act, but 13 other legislators who passed a portion of the bills reflecting these particular concerns, that you have to have certified inspectors to come and inspect what work has been done, because a lot of the work that has been done is done by independent contractors, which don't have the experience that you otherwise would hope to have there, as we've seen in Merrimack Valley. The other is to tighten the regulations and the surveillance around schools. Another is to include a recording of positions of gas leaks, just something simple like a GPS system. Where we see salesmen out there with their tablets and they record what they're doing. Well, they can do the same thing with a tablet when they find a gas leak. Another very important thing, which was a key factor in not only Merrimack Valley, but also for people who work on closing gas leaks, is to make sure all the gate valves are working and all the shutoff valves are working. Right now, a good percentage of the valves that you see in the street are covered over by pavement, and they've been covered over for a period of years, and in Merrimack Valley, they couldn't find them, all of them, to shut off the valves, shutoff valves that have the gas, control the gas flow into the house. Another is to have more frequent inspections of certain areas, and also to have more winter inspections, because in the winter, the frost heaves in this part of the country end up moving the soil and end up creating leaks in the gas, but that hasn't been done very effectively. The second large area that the future bill deals with is giving the municipalities more say before the DPU, the Department of Public Utilities. Right now, you usually have to intervene in a proceeding and it can't appear as a right, because there's a presumption that the Attorney General will represent your interests, because the Attorney General represents ratepayers, and you're looked at as a ratepayer, but you also are a town full of ratepayers. But this gives you the act gives you the opportunity to come before the DPU with respect to any matter before them that affects your service area. And you don't have to do it by intervention, you can do it as a right. Another aspect is you can bring complaints to the DPU to raise issues that really haven't gotten to the level of concern that the Attorney General would be involved with. And in fact, there are probably matters the Attorney General doesn't want to get involved in because they're too small. They don't have as big an impact statewide. So it gives you the opportunity to do that. It also gives you the opportunity to recover for trees killed by gas. Methane leaks suffocate trees. It literally suffocates them. It takes the oxygen and the materials out of the root system, and you'll see the trees dying from the top down. In fact, that used to be the way that the gas company people used to find leaks. They'd look for dead trees, and they knew there was a gas leak around. But the town never had the right to recover for the cost of those dead trees and replanting them. Another is that it adds to the requirements that the Department of Public Utilities has to pay attention to when it issues a decision, public health. Right now, it's only been public safety. So we've added public health and public safety as a factor that have to take into consideration, as well as the extent to which the decision affects compliance with the Global Warming Solutions Act goals. That was not in the statute, in the regulations or the statute either. But and it also encourages them to consider the use of clean and non-emitting renewable energy. The third area is maybe the most important. We're going to be moving off gas in a certain period of time. Your town has already taken actions where I hear tonight where you say, look, you'd like this building not to be hooked up to the gas system, or this other building, they use heat pumps or electrical heat. And that's where we're going to go. For example, in our house in Cambridge, we have a induction stovetop, and we have a heat pump to heat hot water, and we're going to look into how we go ahead and now use our air duct system and put a heat pump in to heat our house and cool it. And I'm just one person. You've got hundreds of people, thousands of people around the state doing that right now. And as you reduce the amount of gas that we use, you end up doing two things. You move the gas into the that the other contract for on the FERC pipelines that come interstate. You make that more available to electric companies or gas electric generating systems, which they now can use that gas that's freed up to go ahead and generate electricity at a lower rate, because they don't now have to bid at peak demand times in the market, in the spot market, for that gas. So your rates are going to go down overall for electricity because you're moving the gas out of the homes and onto not as thermal gas anymore, but to go ahead and generate electricity. That may not seem totally intuitive, but that's what the numbers show on that. The other thing is that opens up the door for a gas company, which is now can only sell thermal gas, to sell thermal energy. And what I mean by thermal energy, one concept is what they call district energy, where you take a neighborhood and you drill down risers into the ground, a couple hundred, 200 to 300, 400 feet, and you pull up and have one large district heat pump. And that hot water then, that water that goes through the system then goes into the houses and through a compressor and acts just like a heat pump. All a heat pump does is move energy from one location to another. It doesn't create a lot of energy, except it does heat or cool through a compressor, just like a refrigerator heats and cools through a compressor, or a air source heat pump heats through a compressor. And they're terribly efficient. If you take a look at the recent filing by the Eversource with the Department of Public Utilities, they're proposing 3 district energy heat pump projects right now, and they're going to spend $12 million, they propose, to go ahead and put those in to see how feasible they are. And their filing says that the efficiencies of those are 300 to 900%, depending on how they're constructed. That means if you put in 100 watts of electricity to run the system, you get 300 to 900 watts of energy out because you move from one location to another. Terribly efficient, much more efficient, which also makes it more efficient, creates more energy available to satisfy and lower peak demand, so your price of electricity goes down. The incentive to do that is provided by giving the gas companies a little more return on their investment for investing in clean energy infrastructure. So they get a certain amount of return on investment by putting in new pipelines, and those last for 30 years, but in 30 years, before 30 years up, they won't be useful anymore, they'll be stranded. But we go ahead and give them incentive to go ahead with a little higher return on that infrastructure for thermal energy than they otherwise would get in putting in pipelines. It's not a mandate, but it opens the door for them, and most of these gas companies understand that in 20, 30 years, gas will no longer be the major reason for heating houses. Just like Michael Bloomberg said many years ago, coal is a dead man walking. Well, gas is a dead man walking in the future also. And we want to work with them and open up the door for them, give them an opportunity to move into another dimension, that is to be a thermal energy provider as opposed to a thermal gas provider. That may be more than you want to take in tonight, but I'd be glad to answer specific questions. There are a lot of other technical aspects to this bill, and there are a lot of other bills outstanding before the legislature that deal with other things like exempting heat pumps from property tax, things like that. But there's a whole package of bills, and we're up testifying with Jude this past week, and there were 37 witnesses testifying before the Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy Bill, and that's when Eversource announced they were going to do the 3 projects, and they verified that. I read the rate case that they filed today, and also Senator Barrett, who's co-chair of the committee, said that when one of the gas companies said, look, we're going to go ahead and be replacing pipelines, she said, why do you want to do that? We're going to be off gas in 30 years. So the notion is clearly there. It's unlike in 2014 when we were passing the new gas leaks bill by which all the gas leaks were disclosed at that point. It was Lori Ehrlich's bill. I had one of my colleagues, an NGO, say to me, let's call it a greenhouse gas bill. I said, no, what do you want to do, kill it? Call it a safety bill. Now you can talk about climate. Now you can talk about greenhouse gases. And you understand that, and most people understand that. So please, we'd love your vote at some point, maybe not tonight, because this looks like it's discussion night tonight, and not necessarily a resolution time tonight. I'd like your vote to support this resolution because it does mean something to legislators. Your legislator will go to the Speaker of the House and say, you know, you got to pass we got to pass the future bill because my towns and my district voted for this and they passed a resolution for it. And these legislators are the speaker's constituents. He's got to deal with that. The last bill, we had 41 cities and towns representing 41% of the state's voting population pass resolutions. And we'd love to have you come and join the 12 that are already there and then the others that will go and pass those.
David?
Yeah, I have one question for you, and then maybe one question for Jude. You were talking about these pilot projects done by Eversource or whatever. In what density of communities is that? Is that in an urban setting, suburban setting?
It can be a number of different settings. A suburban setting is less likely because it's broad.
Sure.
It's like a rural setting. Certainly it'd be difficult to do that. That's why you use an individual's heat pump or a ground source or air source. But yes, they're an urban setting, and they are designed depending upon the amount of commercial buildings there and what the density is. We would look at, the first concept is go to Newton and take a cul-de-sac with maybe 20 houses in it, and you furnish that cul-de-sac with the district energy system, and now you've cut off that branch. So it's pruning the tree back from that. That's one concept. Another is you can take a street that has in a town. I'd offer my street in Cambridge to do that, where you have maybe 20 or 30 houses on a street, and you can go ahead and experiment with that. But I'm not the designer of that. These are what have been proposed, and Eversource is going to do one in a low-income area, in a commercial area, and a normal residential area. It's 3 projects to see how it works and how it works out.
Great, thank you.
Can I just add that my understanding of it is pretty new, but one of the things in the design is that they try to find areas that have residential and commercial, because some of them are outputting heat and some of them are outputting cool. So,
that's interesting.
So they actually balance the system underground with cooler and hotter water so that they're not heating up the ground any more than it already is, or cooling it off anymore, at 55 degrees or whatever it might be.
Jude, at the very beginning of your remarks, did you say that the Green Advisory Board had not considered this? Or?
So we presented tonight, and there were some concerns on some little details, and I had provided them and you with sort of a template test resolution, and what I've said to them and to you as well is that it doesn't have to be in support of everything in that bill. You might be in support of the spirit of the bill or in support of, specifics. So they will come up with some comment, I assume some recommendation. I shouldn't assume that, but yeah. I mean, it sounded like they supported it in spirit, but they had some details they were concerned about.
Sure, yeah, I think we should wait for their input before taking a vote. But I would say that I think this is a very interesting idea. I know 100 years ago they sold steam as a utility. Of course, we won't say that the steam was generated with coal, but still, it's obviously possible to sell thermal energy. So, yeah, it's a very interesting concept.
And these district thermal stations do exist already in other cities. I think, in a sense, Harvard has one. I don't know what their fuel is, but there are some that use ground source as well.
Sure. I mean, even our new school will do that, in the fire station. But doing it as a utility is a very interesting concept. Yeah. Thank you for bringing this up.
Peter?
So you're talking about a higher return on investment. You're talking about a rate structure. They get to pay to charge more cost for these green initiatives as opposed to the old traditional.
In other words, right now for a capital investment to get a certain return, and that's under the constitutional requirements for doing that, and they'll give them a little higher return as an incentive, and they'll certainly get it paid back quickly enough because they don't have to repair gas leaks anymore.
And then how do they? What's the mechanism for getting money for trees that are? Is there a fund that the gas company sets up, and the town just submits an application and proves that a tree was killed by a leak, or how does that work?
There has to be a certified tree arborist
opinion, and then they go and you can go bring a proceeding before the DPU, and the DPU will decide that. As with most things in a regulated industry, the ratepayer eventually pays, but here the ratepayer and a town would pay either through taxes, or you go ahead and have the DPU, the utilities, pay more attention to where they're putting trees, and to, for example, a town should, before they plant a tree, should have the gas company come and do a survey of whether there are gas leaks in the area, things like that. So this will evolve. It's an incentive, and the methodology will change, and at some point, trees won't be a problem because it'll be anticipated. So it's a changing area.
Okay, and so at this point, has it been reported out of committee, or they just held the hearings on it? So
we just had the hearing. There were 37 witnesses for it. There was really no opposition. The gas companies came in and did not say we oppose this. In fact, they supported. They were asked, "Do you support this bill?" Said, "Yeah, we support this." That doesn't mean they support every single thing in it. That'll be worked out in the Ways and Means Committee once all these things get through and put in the sausage machine up there.
Yep. Okay. I mean, I agree with David. We should probably wait till the GAB gives us some kind of a recommendation. I mean, we got a 101-page bill here, so if they, have certain concerns about it, portions of it, I'd like to hear from them. But I'm generally certainly in favor of some kind of resolution supporting it overall. But.
John?
Yeah, where does Jen Benson's House bill stand in relation to yours?
That was heard earlier this year, and that has not been reported out. Can I give you a little context of
Sure.
Sure. When I look at the energy bills, which are a bunch of great energy bills before the legislature this year, I look as a picture, and the frame of the picture is the Global Warming Solutions Act, and inside that frame you have a Jen Benson bill, you have the gas leaks bill, you have Pacheco's wind bill, you have the solar energy bill, you have a bill dealing with storage, a bunch of bills in storage, and there's specific bills dealing with heat pumps, such as, for example, one that we wrote is exempt heat pumps from property tax as an incentive, just like solar installations are exempt from property tax for 20 years. Well, let's expand that to storage facilities that are used in the home and also heat pumps. So there's a whole bunch of bills in there, but they all sort of fit within the framework of the Global Warming Solutions Act, including Representative Benson's bill. And how they will all fit together, I'm not sure. There's the 100% renewable energy bill, there's the roadmap bill of Joan Moschino. They achieve the same objectives with different results. They probably will all end up being reported out and be dealt with on an omnibus energy bill. My intelligence from a number of people saying that we're working on another omnibus energy bill this year, which is, I think, the right way to go.
So all of these bills will get combined into some.
Yeah, there are 13 other bills that deal with, that sometimes have this exact language on gas leaks that the future bill does, and they were written with a future bill draft in front of them. So they copied them, and they're filed by representatives who were from Lowell or Andover, who have to deal with their constituents and understand what their problems are. But all of these will be, I assume, put together and combined, the best features of all of them.
Dean?
Thank you.
Did you?
Yeah, I agree that we should wait until Green Advisory Board has reviewed this and made a recommendation. Also, I think it's important that we actually get copies of the exact wording that is noted in this resolution, because obviously that's a lot different than the 120-odd pages we've got for another bill. So I think if we could do that, I think it's important that we be very clear what we're voting on and that we understand it. I'm a little concerned when we talk about combining some of this with some of the other bills that have been proposed. I certainly am not in favor of natural gas leaks, so I'd certainly vote to eliminate natural gas leaks. I'm not sure that I'd vote for a 20-cent per gallon increase in motor fuel. So I think it's very important before we take any kind of votes on any resolutions that we actually see the exact wording and we know exactly what we're voting on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll consider this.
I have a question. When, Mr. Selectman Charter, when you say resolution, the resolution is really one and a half pages, and what you're looking for is something more detailed about describing the terms of the bill?
Right. You know, as the chair noted, you know, we were given wording 120 pages of a Senate Bill 2302.
So, if I may, that's one other matter within the picture frame that you described, and it was provided for context, but we should have provided the actual House bill that it relates to the resolution.
To whom can we send that bill?
We have it.
Okay.
We'll send it out shortly.
And it would be fine from my point of view to send it electronically.
Just like,
Because not only does it waste less paper, but I can search it, right? So if I'm looking for a particular term, I can search it. Thank you.
just to assuage my curiosity, what's the title of the 2302 bill?
An act to promote a clean energy future.
Oh, that sounds like Pacheco's bill.
It's Pacheco's bill.
Yeah, it's Pacheco's bill on wind. It's mainly focused on wind. He ought to be within that picture frame. It's an important piece. Some bills set a framework, some say this is how we get it done. And this future bill is saying this is how we get it done, but it also sets a framework for the future for gas companies.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, license renewals. And I have a script. I move that we approve the license to expose, keep for sale, and to sell all kinds of alcoholic beverage to be drunk on premises as listed in the renewal master list. 7th Settlement South, True West. Chokdi, Benjarong, Concord Brewery, Rapscallion Table, El Hoopil, Acton Restaurant, Alexa, Bickford's Grill, Gerard Labrosse, Le Lyonnaise, Great Road Seafood Sales, Atlantic Seafood, Indoor Sports Management, Overtime Bar, and Jarman Corporation, Crossroads Cafe. Is there a second?
Second.
I think there's one more.
Oh, is there?
L.I.
Oh. Leafat, Spice Pepper Garden. Maori Exotic Foods, Maori Indian Cuisine, Not Your Average Joe's, Orange Door Hospitality, Poe's Barbecue, Ginger Court, Quail Ridge Country Club, Red Raven, Round Table Entertainment, The Holy Grail, Yang and Zhang, Beijing, Tokyo. Okay, that's that list. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I move we approve retail package store goods license to expose, keep for sale, and to sell all kinds of alcoholic beverages not to be drunk on premise as listed in the master renewal list. Albi Corporation, Buscemi's Town Line Convenience, Elm Associates, Colonial Spirits, Pramuka Mahat Krupa, Acton Wine and Spirits, Acton Liquor Corporation, Acton Liquors, and Basudav Red, White, and Brew.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
I move we approve the retail packaged goods stores license to expose, keep for sale, and to sell wines and malt beverages not to be drunk on premises listed in the master renewal list. Jockey Corporation, Acton Convenience, Donlin Supermarket, Idlewild Farm. That's it for that list.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I move we approve the common victuals license to expose, keep for sale, and to sell wines and malts to be drunk on premise as listed in the master renewal list. Bueno Acton, Acton Bolodrome, Concord Acton Squash Club, New London Style Pizza, Twin Seafood of Acton. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I move we approve the Class 2 used car licenses as listed in the master renewal list. Acton Gas, non-display. Alpha Cars and Urel of New England, no more than 52 vehicles on display. Auto Dealers Exchange of Concord. Dick Dolan, non-display. Tony El-Khoury, Cars of Lebanon, Internet only, non-display. J. Scott Motors, non-display. J. Stackhouse Enterprise, non-display. Jet Black, non-display. Wholesale auto sales, 2-car maximum on display. Acton Family Automotive, 26 cars maximum allowed on site. Milldam Leasing, non-display license inside and out. Milldam Leasing, non-display internet only. New garage, no more than 5 vehicles on display for purchase, no more than 5 in storage for a maximum of 10 vehicles. Northeast Collection, non-display internet only. Wheeler Dealer, maximum of 87 cars on premise. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I move to approve the Class 1 new car licenses as listed in the master renewal list. Acton Ford for 200 new and used cars. Acton Ford Fleet Lease, 31 parking spaces. Acton Lincoln Mercury, 3 acres with full service and sales capability. Alpha Cars and Urel of New England. Eric Gilfex, non-display. Gordon Chevrolet, RRM Ltd, 3 acres, building for 180 cars. RMTD, building and lot, half acre, for building and repair and reconditioning of vehicles. Santilli Automotive Group, Santilli Enterprise, 3-car showroom, Swanson Buick GM truck, 200 new and used vehicles, 37 automobiles. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I move to approve the entertainment licenses as listed in the master renewal list. The Red Raven Gastro Pub, live musicians 5 to 12. Concord Brewery, Rapscallion, acoustic music, Thursdays 9 to 11:30. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I move we renew bowling alley and billiard table license as listed in the master renewal list. Acton Bolodrome, 16 alleys. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I move to approve the 24-hour permit as listed in the master renewal list, CVS. Is there a second? Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I move we approve automatic amusement devices as listed in the master renewal list. Indoor sports management and Acton Bolodrome.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I move to approve a taxi cab license as listed in the master renewal list. To Tanya Ben Harbon, 1 vehicle.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say
Aye.
aye. I move to approve a taxi cab driver's license as listed in the master renewal list to Tanya Ben Harbone.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I move to approve a license to tell fortunes for money as listed in the master renewal list. John Lorenz.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I move to approve the following common victualers license as listed in the master renewal list. 7th Settlement South, True West. Acton Coffee House, Acton House of Pizza, Acton Indoor Sports, Teamworks, Acton Seafood Sales, Atlantic Sea Grill, oh boy, AB Pizzeria, Bagels Plus, Beijing Tokyo, Ben Chirong Restaurant, Bickford's Grill, Blackbird Cafe, Boyne Sano, Burgerdrome, Crossroads Cafe, DiCaprio Pizzeria, Donlands Supermarket, Dunkin' Donuts, Powder Mill, Dunkin' Donuts Main Street, Dunkin' Donuts Main Street, Dunkin' Donuts Great Road, El Hupio, Acton Restaurant, Philo's Great Road, Ginger Court, IC Acton, 7-Eleven, Johnny Rockets, Junior Pizza, Legend Cafe, Le Lyonnaise, Maori Indian Cuisine, McDonald's, New London Style Pizza, Not Your Average Joe's, Orange Door Hospitality, Quail Ridge Country Club, Rapscallion Table to Tap, Red Raven Gastro Pub, Sorrento's Pizzeria, Spice Pepper Garden, Starbucks, Subway, Great Road, Subway Main Street, and Twin Seafood.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Everything left?
Huh?
Is that the consent agenda, no? Or do we do that?
No, we're going to do the consent agenda. Okay, consent items. Number 13, meeting minutes, November 4th and 7th, 2019. 14, committee appointment, Ryan Flynn, full member, Acton Boxborough Cultural Council, term to expire June 30th, 2022. 15, committee appointment, Elizabeth Osh, full member, Town Meeting Improvement Committee, term to expire April 2, 2020. 16, easement agreement, New View Condominium 2, Half Moon Hill. 17, accept gift, veteran services from Tom W.H. Wojcik for $250 to be used at the discretion of the Veterans Service Officer to assist veterans and surviving spouses of veterans. 18, accept gift, natural resources from Paulina Nibby for $1,057.16 for the purchase of a bench to be placed on the Assabet River Blue and Green Trail. And 19, approve Elizabeth White Fund grant recipients.
Motion to approve consent items 13 through 19 inclusive.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Last motion.
Second.
Motion made to adjourn.
Second.
And seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.